Your skin is splitting, every doorknob has a shock waiting for you. The wood floors have opened little gaps along the boards, and the humidifier strapped to your furnace sits there like it forgot it had a job. So here is the part worth hearing before you pay anyone. There is almost nothing inside that box to break. It is less a machine than three simple things that have to happen at the same moment. And when your air goes dry, it means one of those three stopped. Pin down which one, and the fix is yours, and 9 times out of 10, it costs you nothing, or the price of a sandwich. Here are the three of them. The humidifier needs a real reason to run. Water has to actually reach the little pad inside it, and furnace air has to blow through that pad while the pad is still wet. Those three together are the entire machine. Take out any one of them, and you get exactly what you are looking at. A unit that hums along and adds nothing to your air. We will go in the order that catches the most people, because the first one is where most of these dead humidifiers really live. Start with that reason to run, because this is the part almost nobody explains. Your humidifier is not on all the time. On the most common kind, the bypass style, it only makes moisture while the furnace is heating and the blower is pushing air through it. No heat call means no humidity. So the simplest killer of all is the control itself, the humidistat, which either got switched off at the end of last winter or is dialed way down low. People shut these down in spring and forget the thing ever existed. Walk over, turn it up, and listen for a faint click. Right next to that is the damper. On a bypass unit there is a small duct with a flap on it, and that flap has a summer position and a winter one. Closed for summer, open for winter. Every year a pile of these so-called broken humidifiers turn out to be a flap nobody flipped back to winter. 30 seconds, no tools, and half the time you are already done. Then there is the blower setting, and this one is sneaky. If your thermostat fan is set to auto, that bypass humidifier only runs during an actual heat call. So on a mild winter where the furnace barely kicks on, it hardly runs at all, the house stays dry, and you are sure the thing is dead. The humidifier itself is fine. Flip the fan to on, or switch on the humidifier's own fan setting if it has one, and now air keeps moving across a wet pad between the heat cycles. That one change can take a house from bone dry to comfortable. Now here is the question that fills every comment section on this topic. It works when you put the control on test, but it does nothing in normal running. If that is you, relax, because nothing is clogged and nothing is broken. Test mode force opens the water valve no matter what. Normal running needs a genuine call for humidity, and that call is what is missing. Either the furnace is not actually firing when you think it is, or the fan is not signaling the control, or your air is already sitting at the number you set. So do not go buy a valve. Go stand there and confirm the furnace is truly making heat while you watch the humidifier. One more thing lives in this group, and it is worth 30 seconds. A lot of newer controls read the outdoor temperature and quietly lower your target as it gets colder, on purpose, so your windows do not fog and drip. On a mild day, that control might barely call at all, and that is it working, not failing. And if someone recently put in a smart thermostat, a Nest, or an Ecobee, check that the humidifier got wired to the right terminal, because installers hook it to fan power instead of the humidifier terminal constantly, and then the unit never gets its own call. Say that whole first group checks out. The control is up, the furnace is heating, the fan is moving air, and the pad is still dry as a bone. Now we trace the water from the pipe inward, one connection at a time, because people love to grab for the middle of the chain when the fault is usually at one end. Start at the top, at the little valve that taps into your water line. A lot of these are cheap saddle valves, the kind that clamp on and poke a tiny hole in the pipe, and they clog constantly. First, just make sure it is open, because that is one more thing people shut off in summer. Then check the little screen strainer where the water enters the unit, because grit collects there and chokes the flow down to a trickle. Next is the solenoid valve, the part that clicks, and this is where people go wrong. When you call for humidity, you hear it click, and you feel good, because a click means it has power, but a click does not mean it opened. I have watched people condemn a perfectly good valve just because it clicked. If it clicks and you have water sitting right at the inlet and still nothing comes through, pull the valve and soak it in white vinegar overnight to eat the scale, or just swap it. A new one runs around $25 in 2026, give or take by brand. Reading through the manufacturer guides and a pile of repair threads, one part kept surfacing as the quiet killer far more than any other, and it is not the one you would guess. Just downstream of that valve sits a tiny plastic plug called the orifice, usually yellow or orange, with a pinhole that meters water onto the pad. That pinhole is what scales shut, and it is the last place most people think to look. One HVAC tech said it plainly, that roughly a third of the dead units he walks up to have a choked orifice, and the owner has no idea it even exists. Folks will replace the entire solenoid, twice, before it occurs to them to pull a $5 plug and clean it. So do that before anything else. Pop it out, clear the pinhole with a soft wire. A bread bag tie works great, and soak it in vinegar. Do not open it up with a sewing needle or you widen the hole and flood the pad. I saw one company quote $430 just to swap that $25 valve. If a tech is reaching for a whole new humidifier before he has cleaned a $5 plug, that says a lot more about his day than about your equipment. The water side has one more branch. If you call for humidity and the valve does not click at all, and a meter reads 0 volts sitting on it, then the trouble is not down here in the plumbing, it is back up in that first group, the wiring and the control. One fellow chased his dead unit all the way to a little transformer that had simply come unplugged and was hanging there behind the board. Cost him nothing but the minute it took to spot it. That leaves the third thing, air moving through the pad, and there is one failure here that fools even careful people. Water can be reaching the pad perfectly, and the house still stays dry, because the pad itself is too far gone to do its job. That pad is the evaporation surface, the reason the machine exists. When it is crusted over with hard mineral scale, the water sheets down the front and runs straight out the drain, instead of turning into vapor. So the water flows, the air blows, and still nothing reaches your rooms. One homeowner found the pad had not been changed in 13 years, and the house sat around 20% that entire time, quietly wasting water down the drain for years. The pad is a wear part. Plan on a fresh one every heating season, and if you have hard water, closer to every 3 or 4 months. They are cheap, around $16 for the common size. One heads up while you are in there. A brand new pad often looks crusty and coated straight out of the box, and that coating belongs there, so do not panic and think you got a bad one. 2 quick checks with it out. Make sure it went back in right side up. There is usually a mark on the top edge, and make sure the tray above it sits level so the water spreads across the whole pad instead of running down one side. Now before you take the whole thing apart, there is a flip side that is just as common, and it is the exact opposite problem. Sometimes the unit is working perfectly and you simply cannot tell. It usually goes like this. You set it to 45%, you check a meter, the house reads 25, and you decide it is broken. It almost certainly is not. A bypass humidifier in a cold, dry, or drafty house physically cannot reach 45%. There is not enough furnace runtime and too much dry air leaks in and out to get there. In real winter, somewhere in the 20s to lower 30s is often the honest ceiling for that style of unit. One homeowner had 2 separate companies come out and both confirmed his was working fine, it just could not hit the number he had dialed in. There is also a hard limit up top that you actually want. Push the humidity too high in winter, and the moisture lands on your windows as fog, then runs down the glass, then soaks into the walls. That is exactly why those smart controls back the target down when it gets cold outside. Set your humidity to the weather, not to whatever feels cozy. If your windows start sweating, you are already too high, and that is your cue to turn it down, nothing more. None of this needs a technician. A flap, a dial, a fan switch, a $16 pad, a plug you clean with a bread tie. That is the short list that fixes most of these, and every one is a job you finish before lunch. Save the phone call for the wiring you cannot trace, the furnace board, a smart thermostat somebody crossed up, or water dripping down into the furnace itself, and 2 hard rules while you work. Cut the power at the furnace switch before you open any wiring or that valve, and shut the water off before you crack open the orifice or the supply line, because there is real pressure sitting in that line and it will spray you. So the next time the air in your house goes flat and dry and that box just sits there, you already know it is one of 3 things: a call that never comes, water that stops short of the pad, or a pad too caked to hand the moisture back. The pads, orifices, valves, and controls for the common models are down in the description if you need to grab one.